A couple of things throughout this entire our conversation that made me just think about the dynamics of various cultures merging to marry, right? And it also reinforces what I've said on this channel before, is that so many of us lack an understanding of our own history and our own background and our own self, right?
Yep.
That it is very difficult to then travel and to appreciate or to understand or just have a open mindset about other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
But listening to what you said, so do you advise or would you advise? So one of the things I want to also clear up is cultures. There are subcultures within every culture.
Yes.
African Americans, we have various subcultures.
Yes, we do.
What people do in New Orleans is different from what people do in New York or St. Louis. We have subcultures. But would you suggest that, let's just say African Americans marry Africans? What has our Caribbeans marry African Americans based on your childhood experience and your experience? Would you say that's a good dynamic? Or if you said it's not, what would you say the work needs to happen before we come together?
Okay, so that is a great question. I'm biased. I want to give, so if I had to answer a yes or no question or give a yes or no answer without explanation, I would say no. But the reason I would say yes is it takes two people willing to compromise. And you said the key word, you have to learn about not only the culture, but the subculture where that person came from. Give you a good example. I think we both had a history where I was married at one time to a Nigerian, and we were in the Northeast. So he understood Northeastern Black culture, New York, Boston, DC. He understood that. My family was from the South. We're not totally different dynamic than New York and Louisiana. So when you come to a small town, I had to tell them, it was like small little things when you see people, hey, you need to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, to our elders. We still do that. Oh, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir. How you doing, brother? How you doing, Brother Johnson, or, sister, whatever. So that's still expected, in certain circles. And then just the greetings and hospitality, like in New Orleans, for example, if you're out, you can have a conversation with somebody sitting at a restaurant or at a bar, and by the time you leave, this person is hugging you and you made a new friend, and they're inviting you over for a cookout, barbecue, crawfish, whatever. So, and how do I say this? In comparison to St. Louis, it's more of a, when we see large crowds of Black people, I've actually heard other people say, oh, it's too many of us in here, I gotta leave. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like a large crowd of Black people in St. Louis is scary to some people.
Absolutely.
For me, I was like, oh, what's wrong with this? Oh, they're gonna start shooting. Is something gonna happen? I'm leaving. Like that's their first default. Where in New Orleans, I'm thinking, hey, we're about the second line. We're about to have some good food. It's a good time. Like this is about to go down. So he did it, he was trying to understand and navigate being in the Northeast, kind of like, whoa. But then once he saw like, oh, okay, people are different down here. I have to adjust and be a little bit more open and welcoming, because it's just a different dynamic. You're not going to see, if you see somebody on the street that you don't know and you make eye contact with them, even when I was in the Northeast, I still said, good morning, how you doing? Oh, it'd be, you don't know me. What you talking to me for? I said, you made eye contact with me. I gave you the universal Black, like, head nod. Hey, good morning, how you doing? So that's a different dynamic. I think you have to do your research on values. I think that is the key, because you mentioned something. I would not tell someone that is Christian not to marry someone who's of Muslim faith. because I've seen some that work really well, you know.
Mhm.
And same thing goes with cross cultures. I think it can work. I feel like my parents up and had a really, you know, she felt like they had a good marriage because she was open and she liked the fact that my dad had a culture. She felt like that was missing from her because, you know, she was a small town girl, grew up in the country, went away to college, which was 2 hours away in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and went back home. And that was her world. You know, she had been to California, I think once or twice, and taken some road trips. But then she met this man who's been to all these different countries, and that's what she said. She wanted someone that was kind of had this international vibe. So I think in those situations it can work with people, but you have to have two people that are open-minded and willing to try something from another person's culture, and this person needs to be willing to try your culture because everybody's not going to pinch the head, pinch the tail and suck the head of a crawfish with me. You know, that's they're going to be.
I wouldn't.
You eat that? Sometimes I do. I try to stay away from.
I love crawfish, but if it's in the shell, I can't eat it.
Let's see. I used to eat 5 pounds by myself, but I'm not going to do that, like that all the time. So I think it's not going to be easy. I think it's easier. And later in life, when I started to meet more immigrants, I understood why arranged marriages sometimes work. Yeah. Because when there's disputes and conflicts, the families already have a relationship and can come together. And I know they're like, oh my God, that's not, you're supposed to be an independent woman and feminist. That's all crap. Because at the end of the day, this is about families and this is about building a legacy and wealth. The right families marry and connect, you can actually create, you can create something. And I think that's been, that dynamic has been overlooked as we migrated to the big cities and we didn't have those small knit tight communities that we used to have where you knew you was marrying, oh yeah, my son's marrying Mr. Johnson's daughter. Yep. He's a cobbler up the street, or so-and-so runs the restaurant, or she has a bakery. So you had all these Black owned businesses and different families that married and, kind of created that. So when you're dealing with different cultures, it can work, but I feel like it was harder. I think it was harder years ago. Now you can at least watch a YouTube video and learn something about the culture first, so you don't go in and say something ignorant that might offend somebody.
Right.
10, 20 years ago, you really got to bring out your Britannicas and do some in-depth reading where you get a lot of experience today. So, so for me, it's really about the values beneath the culture that matter. Without that, you're not going to have a foundation. You're going to opposites attract, but they don't stay long, is what I've learned.
Opposites attract, but they don't stay long. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I love it.
Because there's going to be, you're going to naturally be curious about something that's different than you.
But I think for those that are Christians or believe in the Bible, it's the same thing where the Bible talks about don't be unequally yoked.
Yes.
You said it, opposites attract, but they don't stay long.
Yeah.
And us not being on the same, not even just religion. So for me, I do believe that. But I'm like you. I know people that are Muslims and Christians that have wonderful relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And so I feel like though, if you're unequally yoked, and not just cultures, but in ideology and finances, a whole gamut.
Yeah, it's you're not going to have a good foundation, and there's going to be constant. Who wants to deal with constant battles and compromise? To me, isn't a battle. Mm-hmm. But if you feel like you have to compromise your integrity and who you are with somebody, that can become taxing. And if you're Black American with let's say a Nigerian or West African or Caribbean person, I feel like the Caribbean and Black American would be easier to merge subcultures, because I know a lot of Jamaicans grew up, with Marcus Garvey. They grew up, kind of, I don't want to say imitating, but I'd say admiration for Motown artists and a lot of the songs and stuff and similarities. And some of what we call the rebel music you can hear in a lot of the Rastafarian music was kind of grown out of that. And soca, however, you go on the Trinidad side with soca, what they're known for, that was more about partying, having fun. It's like, don't worry, be happy. Mm-hmm. They're not speaking a lot about the oppression in the music. It's more about jump up, dance. We're here. We're not worried about that. So it's just a different lens on music.
I agree. Let me ask you this. As a final closing, if we could just leave one little piece of advice or one suggestion, I'm not going to say advice, I'm going to say one suggestion, just one, to our viewers about cultural differences or something they can do to enhance their ability to, let's just say, understand, or their desire to even understand before you even can get to traveling. Just one piece of one suggestion that you could give to us.
For cultural differences, I would say the one suggestion I would have is try to put yourself in the other person's shoes before you rash to judgment or speak and offend someone without even realizing it.
Yeah.
I think if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, that kind of takes away, regardless of an activity they're doing, if it's a food they're eating and you don't understand or it seems crazy to you, this is something that could be, so I would say before, you make assumptions, just put yourself in another person's shoes and then try to be more open-minded. I think that's going to make everybody in the world a better place if we can all just pause and accept people where they are.
Exactly. Hey, Miss Courtney. Courtney, thank you, sis.
Well,
you are just, I just love it. I tell you all the time, we can talk for hours and hours.
I know. I'm like, let me make sure I'm rambling on and on and on. But no, I enjoyed it. And I definitely think that the world, especially now with social media, the world is becoming a lot smaller. We're a global economy. So Black Americans especially need to learn other subcultures because you never know. This might impact you in business, life, or your future spouse might be from another country. Don't knock it.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Listen, people, all we want to do is hopefully you can learn from us. We can learn from you. Together we can grow and glow. I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want. You notice I don't beg people to subscribe. If you don't subscribe, it's okay. I just want us to grow and glow together. Thank you for listening. I hope that this helps. Leave your comments and be blessed.